democracy is a system, as is law, as is politics, as is a family, is a living system. And definitely teams and departments and organizations are systems, living systems as well, because they're occupied by people. So how can you optimize those systems? How can you optimize your organization? Now, when it comes to optimizing their organization, many people have a preference for a rather business-like approach, meaning they look at figures, they look at data, they look at strategy, they look at facts, and they reshuffle. So they reshuffle the business model, come up with new strategies, and then they have the feeling that they're in control. The blind spot here is what I call the operating system of any system, meaning organization, team, department, as systems. It's not just the human approach that's a part of it, but it's an integrated system that together makes up the foundation of your organization. And if you don't update that system, if you don't look at that, then whatever you come up with, whatever strategy you come up with, might partly work, but it's never going to be optimized fully. Let me use an analogy here. Right now, you're watching this video on a device. Could be a cell phone, could be a tablet, could be your computer, your desktop. That device has hardware. So it's, the same thing with organizations. The hardware is the building and all the gear and all the stuff that you need to get the work done. Then your device has software. So whatever software you're using to watch this video, that's a software. And in an organization, that software is what I call this business approach. Everything people learn at their MBA, that's the rational business, like data-based, fact-based approach. What many people don't learn is how to create a proper working operating system for the device. That's a specialist job, usually done by consultants or consultants companies or coach companies who are specialized in that. And usually what they come up with is at least complicated, and most of the time for many people complex, and therefore you need to hire in expensive consultants and coaches. Now, in self-management, that is not going to work. You want to do your own job. You want to be in charge of your own, creating your own operating system. And you could call the operating system a culture of collaboration. But the thing is, it's more. It's an integrated system. And why is it important? Well, let me use another analogy here. I mean, if you're in a relationship and the relationship is not working very well, and you would use the MBA approach or the business-like rational approach, then the two partners could agree to sleep separately. They sleep in different rooms, and then they hope that will solve the problem, give some air in the relation, and hopefully it solves the problems. But you can know or predict that when they don't talk about the problems that they have and where they come from and their needs and their preferences and all that stuff, and how to do that, how to talk about that, how to communicate about that, then their problem is not going to solve. The operating system is very, very important. And because many people don't really know what exactly that is, and they have an idea that is complicated or complex, that's why we're going to have a look at the operating system that I've created. And what is it, and how can you use it to make sure that your system, your organization, your team or department is working well. Here you see the canvas of the periodic system of radical self-management. So it consists of 4 sections. Each section has 7 topics. And actually a topic is a learning module, an opportunity to learn. Now let me explain how that works. But first we go into the 4 sections. So on the top left corner you see the section of self-awareness. For example, behavior and knowing what the effect is of your behavior on others and yourself. Your image, your appearance, flexibility, receiving and giving trust. Those are aspects of self-awareness. And in order to take responsibility for yourself, you need to know who you are and why you do what you do. If you go to the top right, then there are the collaboration skills. Now, in order to take responsibility for each other, which I, by the way, call together management in addition to self-management, you need to possess specific skills. The right corner then, here are the structures, the section of the structures. And structures are ways of organizing. For example, decision-making, onboarding, performance appraisal, access to information. If you go to the left corner, that's the section of the principles. Principles are honesty, for example, respect, trust, wholeness is a principle in self-management. Principles do not serve as the Holy Grail, like the 10 Commandments, with sanctions for those who violate them. They support you in building trust, and discussing them will allow you to get to know each other better and agree how you want to deal with differences in interpretation of principles. Now, how can you use the periodic system of radical self-management as a learning tool? Learning takes place in stages. At the first stage, you become aware of what's not going well the way you want it. And what you need for that is symptoms. Let's say that within your organization, people are frustrated by the lack of openness. They talk about each other rather than to each other. So there's no direct, honest, open feedback. If you go to the top left section of self-awareness, well, it's definitely receiving and giving feedback, but it might as well be openness and transparency, or receiving and giving trust. If you look at the section of collaboration skills, it could be creating engagement, honesty and responsibility, rapport building. If you look at the section of structures, well, the lack of feedback might affect meetings and decision making. It might affect performance appraisal. It might affect hiring and firing. It might affect all the other structures as well. And if you look at principles, well, truth could be involved here, telling the truth, telling what you really think and feel, choice and accountability in taking responsibility for the relation, and some of the others. The second step you take is to choose which building block you want to use to start your learning journey. So in step 3, you prepare a learning module. And many organizations now work with SCRUM-based modules, which means like a 2 or 3 hour workshop with an introduction, with exercises, with time to reflect, and with an objective. So if you take the learning module, receiving and giving feedback, in the self-awareness section, and you start with that one, then you design a learning module, a module for that. So you design a learning module, and you take the learning module, you take time to implement it, you decide how long that's going to be, and then you evaluate it. And when the symptom is gone, then no need to move on to another one, unless you've chosen for the preventive way and make the building blocks one by one. Now keep in mind that the learning journey's primary goal is getting to know yourself and each other better and strengthening mutual trust. It's not to agree on everything. That's just simply plain impossible. So that's the way to use the periodic system of radical self-management.